Colombia. This is Matthias Nygård from TURISAS, and we're coming to Colombia in March for the first time ever. Remember that you get your tickets at Arcanum stores. Go get yours now because they might run out. Cheers.
I take a look around. The blood of women left space in the ground.
Well, that's sometimes you just get these phrases fly out when you speak with a drummer or you discuss, the stylistic side of what you want more, and sometimes the terms and the language is very interesting. So sometimes it's nice just to tweet these kind of catchphrases that just pop up when we do stuff, and that was one of those. It's kind of a very, very complex question, I think, because there's modern technology, and then the sort of business side of it all hasn't really figured out how to make it work in this new situation. And of course, in a way, it's the worst possible. We kind of our timing of becoming musicians, and especially trying to be professional musicians, is, I think, the worst possible in the history. Because if we even 5-10 years earlier, we could have sort of had a very different look at things with record sales and stuff like that. But I think it's in many ways it's inevitable how technology moves on, and we have to sort of just the music industry has to live up with that and not try to keep up sort of old structures that don't work in the modern world anymore. But of course, at the same time, I'm completely against the sort of idea of some sort of jungle law that everything that's that's all immaterial rights should be free and could I believe in copyright, and I believe it's necessary, not only in use but also in patents and the industry and everything. If you lose copyright on things, then very soon you lose all sorts of if you look at stem cell research or medical research or something, it takes a lot of money invested into it, and if there's no copyright and protection on ideas, then very soon there will be no financing either, because it doesn't make any sense, because no one can sort of if you come up with an idea, you can't protect it. It becomes pointless quite soon. So I think there needs to be a copyright system in the world, and it needs to be respected as well, and somehow enforced by law. But I don't think that maybe the measures have been the right, that the record industry has maybe taken on illegal downloading, huge what do you call it, like fines and stuff, like $1 million fines is not maybe the right way to go. But yeah, it's a very interesting, but also quite it's a difficult time to try to make a living out of music. But hopefully in the future there will be some sort of a system that works for everybody. Everybody wants music, and I think fans are ready to pay for quality and pay for contents, but we just need to make sort of everything just match and it work for everybody somehow. But it's a very, very difficult debate, the whole thing, and I don't really have a exact clear answer how to solve it. I think I'd be very rich and famous if I had a perfect solution. Well, I just think like it's kind of funny to see how corrupt the term folk metal actually has become, because that's something that's, ourselves, Fintroll, Ensiferum, bands like this are, commonly known as folk metal bands, even if, Fintroll or ourselves or many others of those bands maybe don't really, of course there is and has been a sort of folk element, but it's not been the sort of driving force of it all. For us, it's only been maybe a maximum 10% share of the whole sound, and it's only been used here and there. So it's kind of interesting to see that term is used for bands, but as long as you know how it is, it doesn't really matter whatever you call the music you listen to if everybody understands what it means. If you say folk metal to a person that listens to that stuff, he probably understands that it's really only about folky songs with accordions and violins, but other stuff as well. Or it has come to mean that sort of thing later on. When it comes to, I don't know, somehow misunderstanding what we are about or that kind of thing, I think the comment on YouTube comments wasn't really about that. It was more about some of the songs, obviously, when they deal with historical things, and there's always many sides to how history is understood and seen in different countries, especially like if you look at something where there's been a conflict and then you have later on historians from both sides, and the sort of general opinion maybe from both sides might be quite different on the same subject. What is one's glorious victory, someone else's miserable defeat. So that sometimes fuels that kind of discussion in our songs. In this case, I think it was something dealing with Constantinople and Turks and Greeks and the sort of never-ending dispute about Istanbul now being Turkish and have a long Greek history, and that kind of, on the internet, stuff like that usually flames up into pretty stupid discussions. So. It feels really, really great. I mean, yeah, as you said, we've been kind of close to coming a couple of times, but it's, for a reason or another, it's not worked out in the end, and of course that's always been hugely disappointing. Luckily, it's not been sort of announced and then have to cancel. That would be, disastrous. But yeah, for a long time we tried to get a tour there, and it didn't work out. So of course, now when we finally announced a tour, we are really looking forward to it a lot. And of course, we heard a lot of good things about Latin American fans, and we've also experienced it firsthand. We have a very active fan base in many Latin American countries, and it's exciting to come to a new place where we've never been. And I don't think anyone in the band has even been to Latin America for any other reason either. So it's also on a personal level, it's the first time to see those countries, and it's going to be exciting. We all love traveling, and it's sort of part of what we do, luckily, and seeing new places and meeting new people it's going to be great. Well, I think Jussi is sort of a 80s video game, as well as Robert, our keyboard player. They're both sort of into this 80s old school video game stuff. I mean, like first Nintendos and Commodores and Ataris and all that stuff. And what else? I guess that's pretty much already as geeky as you can get. So you can't really go beyond that. So there's no one who's like super into, physics or chemistry or something like that. I think, 80s video games is pretty much the elite level of geekiness already. Well, that's exactly how it is. Usually, when we're working with music this much as we are now, so we sort of wake up and then we start recording, and then I do a couple of interviews, and then I continue recording into the early hours. Then first of all, there's not much time to actually be listening to music, and if there's any time off having to work with music all the time, I think many times the choice is just to have silence instead of fill that little silence with more music. So right now it's been so much music all around the whole autumn and latter part of the year, so I haven't really been listening to anything. Well, yeah, just today now when you asked, we've been working here with music while Olli has been doing some work on some cables and stuff. And now I remember that he actually had, earlier today, he had on this British sort of 60s vibe, so what do you call it, artist called Duffy. And that's the kind of easy listening. Sometimes when you work with a lot of metal and that kind of stuff, then it's nice to listen to something really, really soft. So I don't know if there's anything sort of unexpected, really. I've never sort of kept up on some sort of appearance that I would be listening to only sort of hardcore metal or something, so I can pretty freely listen to anything and openly say that I'm into anything really. Well, I think normally you do interviews, and I think it's more about how the person is you're talking to and how professional maybe the journalist is, because of course we are still sort of in a scene where there are journalists with very different kind of backgrounds, and when you do a lot of interviews you learn to notice what kind of people are maybe more experienced and more relaxed, and usually with those people it's so much more nicer to speak than with people who are sort of doing maybe their first interviews, or are not that experienced, or are not just good journalists all in all. And so I think it's not really about the questions asked as such, but it's more about how you ask them, and I think you've been doing a great job, because we've been just talking here, and it's not there's not that sort of sense of you do an interview and there's someone who doesn't even know what your most recent album is called, or what kind of members you have in the band. That's sometimes a bit annoying if you put your time to do interviews, and then you talk to people who didn't sort of bother to open a Wikipedia page or something on your band before answering the phone. So